Welcome to the Small Firm Exchange podcast. On this episode, we're going to head out to Flint, Michigan, where we hear from Kurt Neiswender, who is former AIA YAF Young Architects Forum chair and the current AIA Flint, Michigan president, and his boss, Jeff Ferweda, who's one of the original founders of the Small Firm Exchange. They both practice in Sedgwick and Ferweda Architects, of course out of Flint, and we'll get the scoop of running the firm. In some ways, it's kind of an interesting story to get to hear from an employee and their boss. One of the cool things about this is really getting to hear how small firms in smaller cities practice and how can we navigate our firms based on our situations and environments.
Small firm.
Running a small business and seeing the ups and downs and ebbs and
Different
flows.
scale working in the small firm like us.
To like my passions for
Got
community
engaged in
building,
the community and started to build leadership.
architecture,
And then we get paid to do what we love.
So I thought it was going to be easy. You set up the tables, you plug in the printer, you go. Wow.
Hi, I'm Kurt Neiswender from Sedgwick and Ferweda Architects in Flint, Michigan.
Hi, I'm Jeff Ferweda, Sedgwick and Ferweda Architects in Flint, Michigan.
What's it like being in Flint, Michigan, having the firm for the past, taking over the firm, right, for the past 18 years?
18 years.
Jeez.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Now in 18 years, what has it been since, say day one? I've never asked you this, so what's it been since day one to now,
So
in a nutshell?
I grew up in the Flint area, so when I had the opportunity to move back to the Flint area and take up work there, it was a big thing. It's a different pace than the Detroit pace. Detroit's big city, metropolitan. Flint is still metropolitan, but on a much smaller scale. So moving back to your hometown, providing for Flint, the people who are in Flint love Flint. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to be. And so that is really the best thing about being in the area. It's the people who are there absolutely love it. And you've just moved into the city in the last year, and you're really making big strides and friends and the groups there. And that's not only a huge benefit, I think, personally, and watching your growth, but it's been great for the firm. Even though our firm has always been located in Flint since Tom Sr. started it in 1958, it's always been in the city. He always felt it was very important to be in the city and to give back to the city. His list of accomplishments are large and long. I hope one day that ours are going to be anywhere near that same range. So giving back to the city, watching it grow, it's a phoenix. It's where Cleveland was 25 years ago, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a reference people can understand. I think it's going to get there. People have a commitment to it, and it's growing. So being in the city is really important to me and to our partner, Steve Sedgwick. We've always wanted to be there. We've always wanted to give back to the community. And a lot of the involvement that you've had recently has really helped us do that and improved the quality that we're able to give back.
I think you hit on a good point regarding the people of Flint love Flint, and there's a long history, tradition of generations, right, of people, and that attitude is there, and I think that's what really attracted me and Danielle, my wife, as far as moving into the city, deciding to be in the city, and after starting working for you, 6 years ago, now we're 2 years. Actually, it's been 2 years in the house. First of all, it's only 3/4 of a mile, so I can walk to work, bike to work. Those sorts of things are also exciting and I guess ideal for a young professional like myself. And so, with the firm's history in staying involved in the city and being around since 1958, I personally appreciate that, and also have tried to knock on doors and sort of stir the dust up, I guess, and try and make some work happen. And right now is a good time. The economy has gotten better, especially, within the last 6-7 years since I started working there. And there's some nonprofits in the city. There's obviously the for-profit businesses and developers and things like that. And so there's a mix of who's doing work, and I think, it's kind of exciting right now because there's cross our fingers, there's a few things that we might get in the city of Flint that we might be able to hopefully get into the magazines, right?
Right. And so there's a few mixed-use projects that are starting to happen in the city.
Yeah.
So that growth is happening, and those projects and those dollars are becoming available to the city. And so we see the possibility of that happening. You came, when you were in California, before you came back to the state of Michigan with Danielle, you worked for larger firms, you did different projects. So it's probably a lot different scale working in the small firm like us compared to where you were before. Can you kind of maybe explain a little bit about that? The difference between maybe a larger firm and the smaller firm, and where you see, is there benefit for you in that? What you're capable of doing and what you've maybe been asked to do versus what maybe a larger firm?
Sure.
Where you think you would be in a larger firm.
Right, yeah. Since, similarly to you, when you were younger and you worked in the Detroit area, I did my undergraduate in LA, and so after school I started working in the city around LA, and as a young guy I was doing a little job hopping, so I had some 1 year and a half stints at a few places, and that was to test out what kind of firm I wanted to work for. And so I started out at a small office, and then I went to even smaller office. So I went from a 25-person office to a 2-person office.
Wow.
And then from there I went to a 75-person office. So the project types change with that, So a lot of it was small office stuff. It's like single-family residential. Big office stuff is like district attorney headquarters buildings and things like that. But what happens in the different offices, like say the big office, right? I was one of 75, and I was junior level, and I some of my, I guess, early impact is my personal choice to learn all the software that was coming out, to be that person that knew it as quick as possible so that I can implement it. And so I think that helped my early career out as far as doing a lot of 3D modeling and rendering and things like that, which being functionally good at it, right, I was able to sort of be asked to work on different projects in that bigger office than if I hadn't tried to learn any different softwares. I might have been, I don't want to, I guess I'll use the word pigeonhole, which is the common, term that we use. And so I was able to not necessarily get pigeonholed. And I think that my ability or personal drive to not be pigeonholed has kind of followed me through other offices, right? So after that 75-person office, I went back to a sort of smaller office, about 10 people, 15. We grew up to like 25, and then the recession happened. So everybody lost their job in LA. I mean, everybody. And our whole office was laid off on one single day, Friday at 5, and it was like, okay, here, so the recession was a big dip and a big change, but I think my career to that point, with the diverse interests and skills, I guess, trying to sort of be very diverse versus focused, like say at one particular project type, gave me the ability when we moved to Michigan to be flexible and available to anybody who had work, right? Because at the time, in 2009, 10, I mean, there wasn't a lot going on. And so I think that's helped me in my career. So early on, right, it all started with the idea of trying to be nimble. I guess that's the best term, I think. If I hadn't done that, I think my career probably would be a very different place right now. And who knows if I'd even be in Michigan. But
Right.
So not looking backward, but looking forward. I also started graduate school and added urban design. Something I was also very interested in is the larger scale, right? The urban scale, not just the building. And so while I didn't have very much work, I did grad school and in that urban design degree, and that again sort of adding another skill to my repertoire, I guess. And I think that's also helped me to where I can contribute to the office, some from my work experience and then from my master's degree, and be able to communicate with potential clients and current clients, different perspective, and help sort of round out, right? Because I think to keep going on this sort of diversity thing with our office now, the small 9-person, grown up to 9, right?
Right.
Everyone has a little bit of a different perspective, and we all chip in to round out that conversation, right? And I think that is what I really appreciate the most, right? So your question going from, my small office, big office, LA to Flint and all that is now, I think this is the size, the dynamic that I really like. The big office was cool for a little while, but I felt like I could have got lost in there, just showing up and 9 to 5 and go home. So I think the dynamic of a small firm is my favorite size. Taking 6 years now working there, it's we all know each other very well, maybe a little bit too well.
Sometimes too well. Sometimes our family is a family and it can be dysfunctional, but we get through it.
Right. So, that's what I like. And working alongside you, I keep saying it like I'm a partner, but I'm not. Maybe one day, right?
Absolutely, and that's the thing is if you act like your partner and treat yourself as a partner and you provide that effort, then that does get recognized. It really does. It's really kind of funny because when you were talking about the recession, when in 2008 when it happened, we laid everybody off also. Also on Monday, everybody showed up. We were laid off. The dollars weren't there. We knew they weren't there, but everybody had a drive to continue, right? There was still work that did have to be done. There was some work, not a lot. We still did it. We continued and we persevered. We learned how to be poor. And it was really a good thing. Yeah. It's from that time we learned to let certain clients fire us.
Well, looking back,
right?
It's a good thing.
And looking back, it's a good thing. It wasn't good at the time. Yeah. So those are really good things as far as the way it expands, the way it moves. You've taken on a lot of leadership in the firm recently. And it's been self-motivated leadership. It's not something where I've come up and said, hey, I need you to do this, and you've done it. We had a conversation, a couple years ago, and you said, well, this is kind of where I want to be. And I said, I think you have the ability to do that. And every time you did something, it impressed me. And so I'm like, oh, but you know how to do that? I didn't know you knew how to do that. Well, can we do more of that? So you've taken on that leadership, and it's expanded a lot of things that we can do and what we can provide. And we're probably the only office in Flint that's fully on BIM, right? A few are dabbling in it. So I think we're ahead of the curve there. Our projects aren't to the scale of the 75-person firms projects that we're working on. But the things we've been winning have been better. And I think we're getting better at winning the better projects, right? And we're looking for the better clients. And we're allowed to tell certain clients no. Certain clients we don't want. So taking on that leadership role, you've done that. You've done it by yourself, right? You've decided that this is where you want to be. This is what you want to do. And it shows a lot about character, right? And those are the kind of people who you want leading the firm in 5 years and 10 years. So what, as far as leadership, was it maybe your experience with AIA and the Young Architects Forum? And your leadership there and the things you've been doing. I've gotten so much out of the Small Firm Exchange. Right. You feel like you try to give and you give to these programs, but I think we've gotten so much out of it. Yeah. Our firm totally is different than it was 10 years ago because of my relationships with the people at the Small Firm Exchange and AIA and National and the people that we meet here at the convention. So what about you? Where do you think your feeling for leadership has come?
It's a good topic that I'm glad you brought it up because it really started from when I started working for you and your involvement in AIA, and you were very encouraging of all of us in the office. You said, hey, I'm okay if you want to get involved with AIA things too. And I mean, even to the point where you do in a small firm, you pay for the dues of the staff who want to be members of AIA. Right. In my previous experience, going back, even the largest firm, that was not really a perk to, junior level at that time. I mean, it's probably more allowed for, say, the partners of the firm. So you're committed to AIA involvement, and that shows by saying, I'll pay your dues too. And small firms, I don't think that's very common. So in my stage of career, I'm a young architect, according to AIA, still. One more year, licensed 10 years or less. My first involvement sort of started at the local level in Flint, and you started bringing me to the board meetings because you were on the executive board at the time. And so that sort of got me into the the work setting, right? The
workflow.
The workflow, the way, that it's a little different than just the office, AIA involvement and boards and committees, right? So there's that. And then a position came up for the Young Architect Regional Director to represent Michigan. And so I applied and I got it, right? And so then I joined the National Young Architects Forum Committee. So that brought me to connect with fellow young architects from across the country. And so we're all in the same career stage and we all have different backgrounds. And a lot of the Young Architects Forum, part of what their mission is to provide those skills of leadership training so that we can go from young architect to older architect in a way that you go from an employee to an owner or a partner of a firm. Either they start their own firm or they become a partner at a bigger firm or something like that. And so that leadership training and also events at AIA Michigan at the regional level, grassroots and all these, there's so many things, right?
Right.
You volunteer your time to the committee, but like you said, you really get more back, I think, in the end than you're giving, right? Sometimes it's a little stressful when you're trying to get work done, but you're at convention, right?
Work, family, trying to bring it all together.
Not just, right. All the life things that happen at this stage. And so I think that helped a lot. Being a part of the Young Architects Forum has given me a lot more confidence. I never really pictured myself, now I'm president of AIA Flint. I mean, we're a small group, but now I've taken on that role too. And I don't think I ever pictured this 6 years ago or 7 before I started working for you, when I just got out of grad school with more debt and no job and trying to figure out, okay, where's this career going to go? I mean, what am I looking at?
Right.
The involvement, the confidence, right? I said confidence, but also then a little bit of an initiative, right? So some of the things that I knew I could see with the small office, right? I could see that, you're running around, you're busy, you're, family, AIA, work, everything all together. So I just, instead of plowing into your office and saying, what do you need? I started to try to be a compliment, right? And say, okay, Jeff's super busy. I don't really need to bug him right now. So what can I do that I can help? And then when there's a better time to talk to you, I can say, hey, while you were doing this, I decided to try and do this. And, even if it was not fully cooked, right? If I just began something and either drafted a proposal for a potential project or submitted permit applications or something like that, right? To take some of that load off of your plate. And so I and the first thing you did is, you said thanks, right? You were like, now I don't have to do that, right? Even if it wasn't perfect or totally the way you were expecting to see it, it encouraged me to keep trying and do more things like that, so that we all can go home at 5, right, and go happy hour or something, right?
Right. So I mean, that's I liked when Snow Cry said yesterday in their presentation, right? They try to do things in 40 hours, and I think we try to do that as well. And balance is a huge thing, and it feels like you're never balanced, but that's the goal, to try to have it. And when you and it's really neat when certain things get done that way, because I might have not have done it that way. So that's not what I was thinking. It's not what I expected. It's not what I wanted. But the result was probably better than what I was thinking, because, oh wow, well, I didn't think of that, right? So that's why. And I know it's probably not the right way to do it, but I like giving less information. You figure it out, and then when you come to me, your idea might just be better than mine, right? A lot of times it is just better than mine. And I think for me, when I walk into a room, the most important thing for me to realize is I'm not the smartest person in the room, right? Yeah. But hopefully I can get the best out of those smart people. That's really my goal for an office. I really think where we were at 10 years ago, I look back, some of your questions or some of your comments kind of made me think of the firms that I worked for. And if I look back, I can see when I was working for those firms, they were working on the business of architecture. This is what we do to make money. It wasn't, this is what we do. And then if you do it well, you'll get paid for it.
Right.
Kind of thing. And I really want our atmosphere at the office to be more of, we love what we do.
Right.
And then we get paid to do what we love.
Right.
And that's what I want it to be. I want the projects that we work on. Everybody needs the bread and butter projects. And we have those. We have good quality clients. It's fabulous work. It's not going to win us any awards, but it's good quality work for good people.
Right.
Everybody deserves good design,
Yeah.
right? And every one of our projects, even the little ones or the ones we're like, oh, they're back again, you know. They deserve good design. And I think that's something that we can strive to give. You know, our office is really very young. The talent in Flint, there's not a lot of talent coming into Flint. Flint is Mecca. And all of my AA people know that I'm like, you know, hey, come to Flint, or as we call it, Mecca. And, you know, they're walking like, yeah, we know you're from Mecca, right? But, you know, Flint is Mecca. You know, our cultural center is just a fabulous place to be.
Right.
We have a lot to give, but not a lot of people are coming to Flint. So talent has to be stolen from other firms. We all know each other.
Right.
All the firms know each other in Flint. And there's only one or two that don't really participate in AIA activities in Flint. I think that's what makes our small 36-person chapter, 36, 38, work well. I mean, we're all within a 15-minute drive of each other in the city terms, right? So that's what makes our attendance to everything high and the things that we do go well. So I think that's a huge benefit. And so when someone is going to come to Flint, you snatch them up, right? So in that case, our office is actually, you know, really young, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it, we've got 4 old people. And you're kind of
Which
getting
one
into
am
that old. You're getting into one of those 4 old people,
Yeah.
right? And then, you know, everybody else is learning. But I think the things that we do well.
Yeah.
I really want to do them better, right? How do we improve
Sure.
what we do?
Sure.
I think it's been great because over the last few years, we've got 3 of us at the conference this year,
Yeah.
3 last year, or a few years ago, 3 people out of at that time, we were what, 7 people? 6? And, you know, 3 of us were at a national, national positions.
Yeah.
So I think that has really developed us as a firm. And I think that we're trying to create an environment where, yes, we want people to stay. We want people to be happy. Making money is important, I guess. You know, you got to pay bills.
Right.
You know, you got to keep things happy. But I really want the work that we do to be happy. You've been doing a lot of exciting work. We've got a couple of projects like Joy Tabernacle. It's in the oldest city, or the first planned development neighborhood.
In the country.
In the country.
Civic Park. In case people didn't know that, right?
Right, yeah.
Flint has a lot of firsts.
A lot of firsts. And it's going to celebrate its 100th anniversary.
That's right.
This upcoming year. And Joy Tabernacle was a church that had a roof collapse. The inside of the roof collapsed. And a lot of people converged on them looking to make money on them. And we came to them and said, look, we'll help you. You're going to spend money, but we're going to help you spend money with the right people the right way. It's taken a long time to get there. So we're working with them on trying to help develop that. They're a major center for what happened in the Flint water crisis. They were an anchor of that community.
Yeah.
I want to say that when I went there once for a meeting, there were 7 different church denominations that came in and out while we were having that meeting, just before and just after. You know, there was a priest there and a Presbyterian minister there, and and just and different people came in and said, "Hey, what's going on? Where are you at?" You know, so it's great to work with them. And I know you worked on, you did a pavilion for them, pro bono, and then you've got another one going right across the street with another group that we're doing. So that kind of work in the city, it makes me feel good, right? If nothing else, it makes me feel good. And I think it's what we need to be doing in the community. And that's why I like Flint, because we're able to give back. And I think we are able to give back.
Right.
And you've been doing a lot with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, one of the things I wanted to talk about, right? I mean, you and I know, working in Flint, the people of Flint, and we are, the office, and my house, our experience have been through the water crisis, right? And the lead lines and all that stuff. And I think, obviously the media has their job to do, and they portray things the way they choose to do it. So the media has their job to do.
Right.
And so we, as citizens and architects, especially, not to say that architects are the only people that need to be in the room, but having architects at the table and with the support of AIA and resiliency and how to make the blueprint for better cities, right? How are we going to make our cities better? And we need to be involved in that. And I think not just our firm, but the chapter members, the component at large, the other firms in the city, there's a lot of good things to talk about in Flint, and not just the water crisis, And so, there are still things that are going to happen, that need to happen because of the water crisis. We're not through the woods yet, but there's a lot to still celebrate in the city. And that's one thing I wanted to make sure we talked about, because we want to put it out there and it kind of circles right back to the beginning where, the people of Flint love Flint. And for generations and centuries, right? They've been there a long time, right? And it's a deep river, right, of culture and identity, and that is what still shows through the water crisis, right? It's almost, the recession, all the various things that sort of have altered the path of Flint. Throughout it all, the people really, make it the city. So that's, I just wanted to put that out there. But I think, we're engaging with a lot of interesting clients, and, I'm very optimistic. That's all I got to say. As I every year that I've been working in the city, things just get better and more exciting. So
I think this is our cue to kind of wrap it up.
We could keep going forever, I'm sure.
I could.
Thanks for joining us and hearing Kurt and Jeff's stories. We hope you'll join us next week when we'll hear from Kelly High of the Young Architects Forum interviewing Maggie Schubert out of Richmond, Virginia. Have a great week.